Hi, and welcome to the ever-changing WIP YouTube channel. I'm happy to be here today. This is what I'm calling the second episode of this YouTube channel. It's one where I talk about really my love of knitting and fiber arts and yarn and crafty things. At some point, I may get into other things that interest me, but that's where I'm at right now. I want to first welcome everybody or anyone who watched the first episode. Welcome back. Thank you so much for anyone who took the time to watch any portion of the last episode, which ended up being a little bit long. I very much appreciate all of the views, the likes, the comments. It was so fun to sort of interact with people that way. Any new viewers, welcome. I hope you enjoy what you see here. If you're into it, you can like and subscribe. That would be amazing. Tell your friends, leave a comment, all that cool stuff. Yeah. And so today's episode, I'm hoping isn't super long. We'll see what happens. I did want to come to you today mainly because I literally just got a haircut. I don't know if you can tell. For the first time in 18, 24 months. I mean, it's been almost 2 years, if not 2 years. It was long. It was dying. It was sad. So I wanted to take full advantage of the fact that she spent a real minute styling this. I wanted to make sure that the world got to see because it's never going to look like this again. So, yeah. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to pop in, share where I'm at on a couple of WIPs, talk a little bit about some future projects, and then, yeah, head out, enjoy the long weekend. It's Memorial Day weekend here in the States for any international people. And so I'm looking forward to having a long weekend. So without kind of a ton more chatting, let's get straight into the knitting content. We'll kind of start with my WIPs. I don't have any finished objects at this stage. It's just kind of WIP City and then some future projects or plans because I cannot help myself and I just want to knit all the things. So first off, let me start with this project in this very fancy plastic bag. Very fancy. This project has a little bit of a history, of a story to tell. So that's why it's in this plastic bag. But I think I shared last time that I was going to knit some socks for my brother for our birthday. We are twins. We are fraternal twins, and our birthday is tomorrow, depending on when this gets uploaded. Tomorrow's Saturday. So the plan was to knit these for his birthday. That didn't happen, as you can tell. That definitely didn't happen. So the situation with these, so let me backtrack a little bit. So I think at the beginning of the last episode, I had shared that I was heading home to Connecticut to see and spend time with my family for the first time, really since this whole panorama began. And so when I was home, I said to him, let's talk about socks, right? Let's talk about what you're into with socks, what you'd like to see, how you like them to fit, all of those sorts of things. And so he was like, oh, I have a favorite pair I can show you, and then you can take measurements and go from there. And he brought out the largest pair of socks I think I've ever seen. I mean, that's an exaggeration, of course, but they were much larger than I anticipated for him. It turns out he really enjoys a long leg, and he really enjoys a ribbed sock, which are two things I would not have guessed about him. The leg and the foot of the sock were almost the same length. So I was like, whew, okay, we have some knitting ahead of us. And even the ribbed, I was sort of hoping for a vanilla sock, just something really, really easy and mindless. But he likes a rib. And to be quite fair, this is going to fit your leg a lot better. You sort of need those pearls in there to grab onto your leg in a successful way. So So I measured and then I quickly got to work with these. So what I sort of did, let me do these. It's a 1.5 inch, just 2x2 rib. And then this is actually, I'm loosely following a vintage men's sock pattern. I believed it's called the men's ribbed sock from the Jack Frost magazine from like the 40s. It's a free pattern. I will link it below so you have access to it, but it's essentially a 6x2 rib, which actually when you're knitting it feels almost like a vanilla sock. It's very, very mindless, and it does just offer a really beautiful pattern in the end. So that's what we did. I think it's 72 stitches is what I cast on for him. And I think I talked about last time, I am a huge fan of a 9-inch circular needle for socks. It's like how I've gotten to knit so many socks because of the 9-inch circular. So yeah, these are Knitter's Pride in a US 1.5, 2.5 millimeter needle. And so the way I've sort of started knitting socks is I have 2 of these needles, and what I do is I break up the sock into parts, and then I knit those parts simultaneously on 2 socks so that I never really run into second sock syndrome. So for me, it's broken up into the cuff. So I'll knit one cuff on one needle and then do the cuff on the other needle, and then I'll go into the leg, and then I'll knit the other leg, and then I'll go into the heel and gusset, and then the heel and gusset, the foot, and then the toe. Right? And I just find that the projects finish faster, and overall it just keeps me more engaged. Yeah, so that's how I've been knitting my socks. I will say what ended up happening, which is why you can see this is like a huge mess, is I pulled out a very old skein of black yarn to do a contrast heel and toe. What I very quickly realized is because it was going to be such a long leg and the rib and all of that, I was worried I wasn't going to have enough yarn with the 2 skeins. So I decided to do a contrast heel and toe just to be safe. And I figured I could rip out the cuff as well if I needed to. But I kind of saw that once I had put in both heels, fully both heels, I noticed that the skein of black yarn, I'm going to call it, was contaminated. There was just a little bit of evidence of insect damage, and I just can't handle that at all. I cannot handle that at all. I have a little bit of like a PTSD from it. So I ripped out that yarn, threw everything away, and then popped these into timeout and like completely sealed in a very cold environment. I haven't seen any evidence of anything on these, and I will 100% get back to them at some point, but I was just so bummed. It was the whole thing. So I did order a new skein of Knit Pick Stroll. They're fingering in black. I really loved how the black looked with this. So I did order that, and once that skein comes in, I'm sure I will get back to these. Obviously, they will not be finished for our birthday, but he's flexible, and also I'm not quite sure he'd be like into wearing these wool socks in the summer months. So in the fall, I'm sure is fine. One thing I did want to mention is, so I'm using 2 separate balls. Again, can you see that? Cool. Again, because I'm doing them kind of simultaneously. The first ball I cracked open actually was started in this orange color. And the second one was in this red. And you can see the red comes after the orange. So what I ended up doing was ripping out the orange of the first cuff and starting with the red, because now they're going to probably be an exact match. If it had been like the green first and then the red and there were all these colors in between, I don't think I would have cared as much. But for one color, it just really bothered me that one sock was going to be off one color from the other. So I did just want to mention that. This is Knit Picks Felici, their fingering base, which I think is a 75-25 merino nylon base. Let me just, I don't have it. I don't have it here, so I guess we'll never know, but I believe that's what it is. And this is their Cloudy with a Chance of Rainbows. And I'm so obsessed. It's like a little bit of a muted rainbow. The color isn't really coming up well here. But yeah, it's just so great. So I will get back to these. It is a thing I will do for sure, but, not quite there yet. Not quite there yet, which is fine. What a bummer. I think ultimately the thing I'm the most bummed about is I just really love having a pair of socks on the needle, and those were the socks I had on the needle. So you'll see, I actually have a plan to cast on some new socks because, I'm a person who can't wait, apparently. Okay, but what that has given me is a lot of time to work on another WIP, which I'm actually really loving. I'm loving so much. So this one is the Me Oh My Tea by Park Williams. I did talk about it a little bit at the end of the last episode. So sorry, I did try to take a picture of it so I could show it to you. And of course, that's not happening. So give me 1 second. Again, if I was like a professional, I would be so prepared. I am not a professional and I'm not at all prepared. Okay. Yeah, so this is the cropped tee. I'm knitting it in a cotton. There we go. That's better. I'm knitting it in a cotton, so it's like perfect for this time of year. Let me show you where I'm at. Okay. Ta-da! Can you see? I'm like in the middle of something because of course. And it's white and it's blowing out, but I don't care. I'm really excited by it. I did gauge swatch for this sweater. I think I talked about this a little bit last time, but the gauge didn't really ever hit right. And I kind of just was like, well, I'm going to knit it on these needles and then I'm going to knit it at this size and we're going to see what happens. And I ended up, before I got to the part where I split for the sleeves, which I'll talk about in a second, I did put this on waste yarn and actually try it on because I was getting nervous that it wasn't really going to fit, that it was going to be a bit small. It was like holding it up to other knitted sweaters and it was like significantly smaller and I was getting so freaked out. But yeah, but it fits so beautifully. It actually fits so beautifully. It made me way more excited to finish this project than I even already was. So yeah, let me talk a little bit about what I've decided to do. I don't know if you could notice from the picture, but it's just a raw stockinette edge for the crop. And I decided I wouldn't be comfortable with that. Stockinette will roll if it doesn't have anything to secure it. And I was just worried, especially on a cropped body, that I would just be constantly tugging it down, constantly dealing with it. So what I decided to do was put in a rib at the bottom just to give it a little bit to anchor itself. I only did a 1-inch rib, super simple, super easy. I'm like losing stitches, so 1 sec. Okay, perfect. One thing I do just want to point out, I did a 2x2 rib. I didn't think about the math at all. If you know me at all, I don't think about the math ever. I'm knitting this in the large size, and for the large size, it wasn't divisible by 4, the number of stitches around. So what ended up happening, I wonder if you can even see it, is there is a little bit of a section where the rib, the 2x2 didn't work out. This is like 4 purl stitches. I should have probably done a 1x1 rib. It would have been divisible by 2. You know, we learn things. I think ultimately it's going to be underneath my arm. And you know what? Even if it isn't, who cares? No one's going to be looking that closely at the rib. And if you are, don't say anything. Just don't say anything. That would be amazing. Other things about this is, what was I just literally going to say? I'm knitting this in the large size. It is a pattern that calls for negative ease, which is partly why I had a little bit of confusion about what size to knit. But like I said, I think it's going to work really well. I added 2 inches, about 2 inches of length to the body. I've knit a few cropped sweaters. I know that like from my underarm to where I want it is about 10 inches. That just hits me in the right place. It allows for me to wear high-waisted things really successfully with not a lot showing. So I did add 2 inches of just stockinette to the body to account for that. I'd recommend that you take some time and kind of measure yourself or measure shirts that you really like the fit of to understand what you want. And that's sort of the joy of knitting garments in particular, is that like you can literally decide how everything's going to fit. So I just split for the front and the back. You can kind of see the little end there. We're going to knit back and forth on the front and the back. The back is a little bit higher to account for how your shoulders are, right? Like to fit an actual human person. So you split and then you knit front and back, and the back will be a little bit higher so it sits better. I have this all kind of on the same needle, but I'm just kind of working back and forth on the back right now. And then I'm going to transfer that. I'm using my Chiagu interchangeable set. And so I will transfer the back stitches onto another cable and just put stoppers on, work on the front. And then when I'm ready to join those again, they'll be ready to go. I can just attach the needles and start knitting kind of immediately. I'm knitting this on a US 6 is where I landed, which is a 4mm needle. They're just so sharp in the best way. I love them so much. I'm also knitting this out of Knit Picks. They're simply cotton. It's a sport weight. I believe the initial pattern is DK. I use yarnsub.com, and this was one of the better yarn substitutions that was on the affordable side. So that's what I went with, but it is technically a sport weight. You can see that's the label. This is my knitting project journal. I should do like an actual conversation about this in a different episode, but yeah, so that's where I am with this. Like I said, I'm just really loving it. I mean, just the miles of round and round stockinette was so nice. I'm still, like while I was sitting on conference calls or meetings, like just to like zip was such a comfort. But after trying it on, I'm super jazzed to finish this. I'm away this weekend visiting some friends. This is the project I'm going to bring with me in hopes that I get a lot further. My actual goal is to have this. I feel weird calling it a sweater because that's not how it feels at all. It's 100% cotton. It's so breezy. Like it doesn't feel heavy in any way, but I guess technically it is a sweater. Knitted t-shirt. Is that a thing? Can we make that a thing? My goal is I'm going away to celebrate a friend's bachelorette in a couple weeks. And my goal is to have this finished actually for that trip. I just think a cute little crop top with some high-waisted shorts or over like a dress, high-waisted skirt. I have a couple plans for this sweater. So that's the goal. That's happening in like 3 weeks, 3 weeks. So I gotta work. But the thing about a crop top, it just goes so fast. It's also short sleeved. So that's going to take like 0 time at all. So yeah, so that's what's happening here. This is sort of the yarn. It's great. It's really, really great. Like I said, I'm really loving this one. I'm just loving it. So it's awesome. And that's really what I've been knitting on. Oh, one thing I did also want to say about this sweater, part of the reason why I didn't get as far as I wanted to is what I ended up doing, and the pattern does call for this. The pattern does call, I'm trying to like make this not so annoying, but I don't know if I'll be able to. For you to use a smaller size needle for the ribbing, it just it ends up being like a cleaner look. And then it's a little bit tighter too, and you want that ribbing to hug you in those certain areas. So there's ribbing on the arm and then also on the neck. And then, like I said, I put it on the bottom of the body. So this is, I knit the ribbing in a US 4, 2 needle sizes down. That's what the pattern recommends. And I completely forgot to switch needle sizes. This, talk about like a toxic trait you have. That's my toxic trait. I never remember to switch needle sizes after doing the ribbing. And I got to probably here and realized immediately I had made a terrible mistake. I just knew it wouldn't fit. Like I was like, what am I doing? And then looked and realized like, oh yeah, you've been knitting on the wrong needle sizes. So this would have been further than where it is, except complete user error. So if there's a person out there who can like constantly remind me to switch the needles after the ribbing, I would appreciate it. But yeah, so both of those projects have been primarily what I've been knitting on. Like I said, couple strong starts, couple stops, couple of bumps in the road. So not as far as long as I would have liked, but you know, that's just knitting at times. I'm hoping to have that t-shirt done for the next time I record, and then we can show it off. So that would be the big plan. I'm going to move right along into a purchase I made recently. Remember how I talked last episode about how I was like done buying yarn? I'm like trying to buy a house and like I don't need any more yarn, and I had just gone through this yarn swap and whatever, and then like immediately placed an order. What are you going to do? But this is actually a kit. This is also in a plastic bag, not because I want it to be, but just because that's how I'm storing it currently. But I was following Two of Wands, the designer Two of Wands. Alexandra is her name, and she does a lot of kits, knitted and crochet, typically with Lion brand yarn. And she designed this really cute ribbed tank top for the summer, and then did a kit with their Lion brand yarn, and then the kit went on sale, and now I have the yarn. So this is the picture of the ribbed tank. Can you even handle how cute that is? I mean, stop, right? Like, so unbelievably cute. Like, do you just not want to be this person just like on vacation with a straw hat, wearing easy breezy pants, rocking this tank? I mean, right? I'm trying to see if I can find the name of the pattern, and of course I can't. But the Pirate Tank, Pyrite. And it's a pattern. You can just buy the pattern, or you can buy it as a kit through the Lion brand yarn website. It's great. It's super cute. I mean, I can't handle. So I got it right in the color it comes in. If you know me at all, I am a neutral fan. So that dark gray, perfect for me. It's just perfect. It's knit out of their 24/7 cotton yarn, which is 100% cotton. It's got an interesting twist on it. I don't know if you can see that super well. It's a pretty tight twist. It almost looks like roping. So that I think is something that will be really, really interesting to see when it's kind of knitted up. I believe it's a fisherman's rib is the stitch she uses for that pattern. I have not even looked at the pattern, full disclosure, but this is on my summer list. It's on my summer list. So I have the yarn now and I have the pattern. So I think in terms of garment plans, after I finish the Me Oh My tee, I'm going to go to the Hipster Tank, which is a pattern I shared in the last episode. I have the cotton. It's a cotton linen blend yarn for that. I just think that's going to be a great tank for summer. And then I think I'm going to go straight into this. So if all things go according to plan, by August, I should have a few new summer wardrobe staples that I can start to wear. So, ta-da! Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited. And then the last thing I guess I really have to share with you is, and I think I did talk about this in the last episode, so my apologies if I did so, but the Jelly Roll socks is, or I think, okay, it's just called Jelly Rolls. I mean, look at how cute. This is a paid for pattern. I bought it off of Ravelry. They're an ankle sock, which I just kind of love. I've never knit a shorty pair of socks, nor have I ever knit socks this low. But what ends up happening is you have sort of like two cuffs in two different colors, and then you kind of carry the colors, I don't know if you can see, into the heel and then through the foot and then a bit into the toe. Oh my gosh, how cute. So I'm actually planning to cast these on. I may actually bring this project with me when I go away this weekend. And I'm going to really make them true scrappy socks in the sense if like they don't match at all, I'm going to be completely fine with that. I am going to use this combo of yarn. I'll hold these up individually, which is yarn that I got from my yarn swap with my knitting group. Look at that. It just like screams spring, summer to me. This is really blowing out, but it's like a cornflower yellow, if you're into that, if you know what I mean. And then this really kind of fun variegated as well. I just think these are going to all go really, really well together. I'm thinking, maybe I'll use the yellow as the contrast for both of these to kind of tie it in. I'm not sure. To be continued. And then if this isn't enough yarn, I also figured I'd dip into other scraps and just kind of see where it takes me. Like I said, I really miss having socks on the needles. They're so fun to knit. They're just so fun. They're super portable. You can take them literally anywhere that you go. And, I've pretty much packaged all of my winter knits away at this stage, including most of my socks because they're just heavy and I don't love that sensation in the summertime. But I actually think like a shorty sock, especially, we're experiencing right now in the Northeast, cold and rainy weather for this weekend, which is kind of a bummer for Memorial Day weekend. And we've experienced some like real summer-like days recently, but on days where it's a little bit chilly and rainy, like you still want a sock. And I just think this is going to be a really great, fun pattern that'll go quick and they'll be perfect for those kinds of days. So yeah, that's pretty much, I'm planning like 1,000 things. Please don't get me wrong. Like there are so many things I have planned in my knitting life, but really for today, I'm trying to be much more mindful about starting projects that I'm actually going to finish, that are actually things that I want to do. So that's sort of the plan there. So yeah, that's really all the knitting kind of yarny content that I have to share with you today. I just find this to be super fun. I hope you enjoy and don't find it to be. I hope you enjoy and I hope that you find it fun too. I'd love to hear what other people are working on. That's partly why I started this channel, was that I wanted that interaction to see what other patterns were out in the space and what other people were working on. So please, leave a comment if you're working on something. I'd love to hear about it. I will make sure to include all of the patterns I talked about, and most of the yarns, these little scrappy yarns that I talked about today, I don't have tags for them, but the yarns that I do know, I will leave that in the down bar below as well. And as I mentioned last time, I will identify when a pattern has come from Ravelry. I know that that's not accessible for everyone, and I want to make sure that you are aware that you're heading to a Ravelry link if you're someone who unfortunately cannot access that site in its current format. But until then, happy Memorial Day weekend. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, I'll see you really soon. Thank you. Bye.